This is the new Savage A22 22 Magnum Semi Automatic Rifle. Hey guys, this is Mike MBell556, and in 2015 Savage introduced the A17, which was a semi-automatic 17 HMR rimfire rifle. The key to success was trying to figure out how to prevent premature unlocking. A rimfire Magnum case presents problems because the case has to be made thin enough to allow the rim to be crushed to assure that you have dependable ignition when the firing pin strikes the rim of the case. And the rimfires are generally straight blowback operations. So Savage had to figure out how to delay that straight blowback function. The classic way that gun makers overcame this problem with the Magnum rimfires was to add weight to the bolt system. Now let's take this gun for example. This is a very nice Bruno ZKM 611. This is regarded by some as one of the finest 22 Magnum semi-automatic rifles available, and unfortunately has been out of production for quite some time. Bruno uses bolt weight as a way to prevent premature unlocking with the 22 Magnum rimfire case. The bolt in this gun is attached to a large piece of metal. It's all one piece under the handguard, and the bolt is about 8 inches long and weighs just under 1 pound, about 15.1 ounces. And this is a very reliable and also very accurate 22 Magnum. Now, if you've seen some of my previous videos, you know that I did a video on the Magnum Research 1722M, the 22 Magnum Semi-Auto Rifle. They address this problem a totally different way. Magnum Research addresses this problem by putting a very tiny gas port in the proximal barrel. And then underneath this handguard, there's a little gas diffusing block that we showed in our previous video. And you can see this is basically a manifold with multiple vent holes that then diffuses the gas leaking out of the proximal barrel. Now, one of the other 22 Magnum rifles that's very high quality is the Volquartsen. Volquartsen is a newly manufactured rifle, still in production, and Volquartsen uses the 1022 style receiver. They address the problem with the delayed blowback by using added weight to their bolt system, but they have a limited amount of space, and so they use tungsten materials to add weight to their bolt. But when developing the A17, Savage came up with their own design. They use a hard chrome bolt that has a steel locking piece that extends into the recess cut into the upper receiver when the bolt is fully forward. When the gun is fired, pressure builds up against the locking piece, and it will, with a slight delay, cam out of the recess, and then this allows the pressures to reach safe levels before the bolt is unlocked. And it appears that the only significant difference between the A17 and this A22 is the chamber and the bore cut into the barrel. So let's take a close look at this rifle. The rifle comes with the owner's manual, some earplugs, the obligatory safety lock, and it has a small adjustment tool for adjusting the accu trigger. If we just look closely at the rifle now, we'll start at the front and work our way back. You'll notice there are no factory sights. The rifle has a very nice, classic, deep blue finish on the barrel. You have these grip pads on the foreend. The receiver comes with the mounts already fastened to the top of the receiver, so you have a place to attach some scope rings. A very nice, comfortable cocking handle. It has a bolt hold open device. There is not a bolt release, but you have this little knob underneath the receiver, and if you pull the bolt back and push the knob, it does hold the bolt open, but to release it you will have to manually operate the knob. A very nice flush rotary magazine that holds 10 rounds as opposed to the 9-round Magnum Ruger magazines. It has, of course, the Accu trigger. Now the trigger housing is all molded plastic. It feels fairly light duty. Another part that seems pretty light duty is this dust cover on the back. The dust cover is a small piece of plastic. It has the area to take down as a small pin that we'll see as we dismantle this rifle. You have the grip pads built in, the pistol grip portion of the stock. The buttstock itself is probably my biggest complaint about this. It is, you can compress it. It's hollow. It sounds kind of cheap and plasticky, but it feels good. It's comfortable in the hands. It just seems a little inexpensive. I know they're trying to keep the cost down, but you'd think maybe they could just fill it with some closed cell foam or something to give it a little bit more stiffness. Now the butt pad is very nice. It's got a very nice, soft, cushiony rubber butt pad. This gun is very easy to disassemble. The only tools needed to disassemble this for cleaning and maintenance are an Allen wrench and a small punch. So let's just real quickly go through the breakdown, the field stripping, and we'll be able to evaluate some of the parts and design features as we do that. The first thing we need to do, obviously, is just make sure that the gun is safe. So now to take the gun apart, let's go ahead and take the magazine out. The chamber's clear. You can see the bolt, and if we pull the bolt back, you can actually see the recess that's cut into the top of the receiver here. You can see an up close picture right through the magazine well. So the first step in taking this down, there's a little retaining pin in the back of this dust cover, and you just use a small punch, push in the retainer and kind of lift up on it. That knocks it out of position, and then the dust cover can be lifted up and out. The dust cover is there again. It's pretty cheap. I know they're trying to keep the cost down, but it's very plasticky and very light duty looking. Even the pin that's on the back of your action spring that holds the dust cover is a small gray piece of plastic, and it just doesn't seem that heavy duty, and it looks like it's something that may break pretty easily in the future. We'll just have to see how this holds up. You can take out the action spring, little plastic retainer on the end of it. You have a rear takedown screw and a front takedown screw. Once you've removed the recoil spring and rod, the cocking handle will just pull out. The rod itself holds this in position. So once the recoil spring is removed, you can just pull out the cocking handle. We'll take the action out of the stock, take out the rear takedown screw, turn the rifle over, and then we'll take out the forward takedown screw. Make sure the safety is in a middle position so the safety itself doesn't prevent the stock from being removed, and then we'll remove the stock. Now the stock, once again, you can hear that. Even in the front, underneath, you can see here in up close views, it's a very lightweight plastic stock. The one good thing is I have contacted Savage directly, and they say that the A17 stocks will fit. They're identical to the A22 stocks, and Boyd's stocks makes aftermarket solid wood stocks. And if this gun functions well, then I think it's going to earn itself a stock upgrade. Now, the trigger housing is also very lightweight plastic. There is a retaining pin for the trigger group. Once you take this retaining pin out, then you can just push it out from the right side to the left side. The retaining pin comes out. Once the retaining pin comes out, the trigger housing goes forward. Once it slides forward, then you can lift the trigger housing out. Just take a look. Very nice Accu triggers that Savage makes, but the housing for this trigger is very thin-walled and just seems a little bit on the light-duty side. The bolt just slides back and lifts up and out. Very interesting design. Okay, here's the bolt, hard chromed. This is the steel locking piece. When the bolt goes forward, you can see, if we put the handle in here to manipulate this a little bit, okay, you can see this piece here on the side, and when it goes forward, the bolt is going to be in a locked position, and you can see the locking bar comes up. As it goes forward, the locking piece goes up. When it goes back, the locking piece cams out of the way. And this is the design that they came up with initially for the 17 HMR, and now they're using it in the 22 Magnum. So we're going to see how that's going to work out. So that locking bar just goes into that recess that's cut into the top of the receiver right there. The receiver itself is very well machined. It looks very nice, as does the barrel. So the main action, the bolt, the receiver, and the barrel all look to be very high quality. The stock and the trigger housing doesn't seem to be up to par, as the dust cover doesn't seem to be up to par with the main portions of the rifle itself. So now reassembly, very simple, just a reverse order there. We'll put the bolt in. Put the trigger housing. Remember, it's going to go in and then slide back to lock in its position. Then the retaining pin for the trigger housing goes into the left side of the receiver. Put the action back into the stock. We'll put our longer forward action screw in. Now we'll put the rear action screw in. And bolt's going to go forward. We need to put the charging handle in position. It will be held by the recoil spring assembly. You can pull the bolt back to see where the recoil spring assembly needs to go in the back of the bolt right here. Push everything forward, and then it's going to lock into the back here, just like that. This is the little pin that's going to let the dust cover snap into place. Snaps back in. Put the magazine in. Once again, when you put the magazine in, you want to make sure that that front bar snaps in place and locks it. Now, there are 5 points made at the very beginning of the owner's manual in regard to the operation of this rifle, and I'd like to review those real quick. The first point is that they say to use this new A22 ammunition by CCI, and CCI and Savage are owned by the same parent company. This ammunition has been designed specifically for this firearm. They use new technology in the bullet, they use fusion technology for the metal jacket, and they also use some improved powder in this round. And the interesting thing is Savage recommends the use of this A22 ammo for optimal performance, but they don't have an outright prohibition against using any other ammunition. If you remember when we looked at the Magnum research, they basically have bright orange stickers that prohibit the use of the low weight bullets in their semi-automatic rifle. And when I see something like that, I think, there must be a danger associated with that. And in this situation, all their Savage is saying is just for optimal performance. They recommend this, but they don't have a prohibition against any particular bullet weight. So when we take this rifle out to field test it, we're going to use a wide variety of 22 Magnum rounds. We're going to go everywhere from 30 grains to 50 grains and everywhere in between and see what we get as far as function, reliability, muzzle velocity, and accuracy. And the second point that the manual makes is always keep the bolt lightly lubricated. And I'm sure that has to do with the camming action of this locking piece to make sure that you have the proper amount of delay in blowback. So always keep the bolt lightly lubricated. The third point is always make sure that when you put the magazine in, that this front tab audibly clicks when you put the magazine in. And I think they've had a lot of problems with people not adequately seating the magazine. And one thing I would say is when you go to use this, pull the bolt back, lock it in position, and load the magazine with the bolt back. And I think you're probably going to have less failures as far as the magazine not being seated properly. The fourth point is just not to ride the bolt back. Remember, there's not a bolt release. So to release the bolt, once you have a loaded magazine, you're going to have to pull the bolt and release it. And the point is, just like with any other semi-automatic firearm, you don't ride the bolt home. You charge the action by completely releasing the bolt and not riding it home. And the fifth point, which I found very interesting, is they say when you're shooting the gun, when you fire the gun, hold the trigger fully rearward until the action has completely cycled. I think that basically it's just getting you to slow down your shots. But they make a point of pulling the trigger back and do not release the trigger until you know the action is fully cycled and the round has been charged. So all that remains now is let's take this rifle out to Bullet Creek and do a field test. We're going to look at several types of ammunition. We're certainly going to center everything on this A22 ammunition. We're going to look at reliability with different bullet weights. We're going to look at muzzle velocity with different bullet weights coming out of this very nice button rifled 21-inch barrel. And then we'll do an accuracy test. I think for the accuracy test, we're just going to concentrate on seeing how accurate this barrel is with the specific ammunition made for this gun. If you have any questions or comments about what we've talked about, please post those and I'll try to respond to those in a timely fashion. Stay tuned for the field test. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.